citizens of Wasatch County. It has benefited people who moved in and bought them.
Can I follow up on that? Just right behind you where it says focus. I think as we move forward, we just really focus and go, number one, help teachers and law enforcement and those that need it. Number two, that's what we've been doing, is creating and encourage move-ins. So we got to work and focus on number one.
But the problem is your statistics that you're looking at are not going to address this issue. They're looking at what people, an average wage, they're looking at number of permits, and there's a lot of math in it, and you come up with a statistic. The statistic is we have law enforcement openings we can't fill. That's the statistic.
Part of that is because the wages aren't high enough to make them move from where they currently are.
Well, and surely they can't afford to buy the home that's way more
Guy the
expensive
other day
here.
that would love to
than
come
it is
here.
some other
Seasoned
place.
county sheriff. I told him we need some good people. He said, "Man, I'd love to, but
Can't afford
just don't pay enough up there to."
I only know this from talking to Loomis, the Southfields project. That has, they're looking for the other entrance. That's a workforce housing program. That's for teachers, employees. That's not for people coming out of Utah County. They've got to live and work in Wasatch County.
I really like your idea of the
But that's a good idea.
down payment assistance where we could focus on giving it to the law enforcement, the teachers. You know, you give them a 150 grand second or whatever it takes, you know, to make it. It actually, it does a couple of things for us. It gets them in a house, and it somewhat makes it harder for them to jump from Park City or Summit County next year.
Because they're losing the house when they move.
But I agree with you, Spencer, but we gotta have a way of funding that.
Oh, we do, and we need to get set really fast, because I think we just keep kicking the ball. We need to set the fee amount. With our Nexus Day, we need to put it on the agenda and solve it. We can have our arguments out and.
What about participation? Is that going to go straight across the board with all the little towns?
I think we got to, that's part of the study or the look at it.
Just a thought. I know Heber Police are looking for homes. Participate then.
And maybe
I mean, that sounds kind of bad.
They're going to wait and see what we do.
we brought it up in a local, and they said they were looking to see what we were doing. I know that's a terrible
We're going to involve them in our plan.
answer.
Part of the joint.
It's horrible.
It is.
You know, I think Midway and Heber should participate. Daniels and Charleston, where they got the large lots, 5-acre lots. I don't know what they benefit, but Midway and Heber City should be on the same page as the county.
There's an argument to me that one of those is creating the biggest need.
I think
And we're filling it. Mitch, Bob, you got your hand up. Yeah.
My takeaway from this so far is you've decided that you need more fee and lieu money to pay for the down payments, assistance for down payments. That's what I hear this last 5 minutes doing.
That was my opinion. I don't.
And I think you're right, but then you have to have the product built to make the down payment. That comes into zoning, that comes into where you're gonna get the builder to build the lot that's or the product that's restricted to a certain amount. He's gotta have certain financing. In order to do your study or come up with your plan, you've gotta look at the economic side from the builder, whoever's gonna build the product that you're gonna help finance the down payment on.
And
You
some of those
can't do
things
one without
made
the other.
points
Yeah, I agree.
touch on that.
And you're not doing the other side.
Well,
Yes, yeah.
Hoping they are.
I'm not sure we're not.
So I think you need to put together your analysis package and encompass both sides of that equation.
Real quick.
I agree. We need to set a price right now before the downturn in the market that will happen at some point, and these developers will slow down. We won't be getting as many projects a year. So we're missing out on this money as we're debating all this. Secondly, I still believe there are people that will never own a home. They don't want to own a home. And you know, this workforce housing that we're talking about, you know, these transient workers for the winter, for the ski season, or for whatever else is seasonal, they're not going to buy a home. And so I think there's, you know, when you have the developments up at Jordanelle and everything, when they say they're building workforce housing, to me that's rental. That's not purchase, because the moment you buy it, you take it off the market for those other transient people that need a place to rent for 6 months. But that rental market, you know, is something that all employers should have to have. Their own employee housing should be, Zermatt should have their own employee housing in Midway, so that they don't have to get in a car and drive to work. So they're the most resort or the biggest hotel type situation that employ a lot of people.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a few things I'd like to bring up. One thing about our current law is it allows for developers to propose their own study, and the council can accept that. That can be ambiguous and difficult to apply, but it does offer the county some protection, and that there's a way out. One thing I'm concerned about is the more that we raise the fee in lieu, the more likely it is that we'll be sued for the fee in lieu.
Especially if we're the only ones doing it.
Especially
We're trying
if
to
we're
collect
the
for
only ones.
everybody. That's my point. I can't get there. I can't, Rick. I'm not gonna vote for that kind of fee in lieu if we're the only ones doing it to solve the other municipals' problems as well.
I understand that completely.
And-
You gotta get Midway and Heber, you gotta get them involved.
Maybe 28's fine if the other folks are doing 20 or 15 in addition. Then you get to where you need to be, but we can't be the only ones doing it.
And we implement the other 6.
Yeah, look at the other criteria. Otherwise, you're saying, okay, Wasatch County, only the county unincorporated area is going to pay for your affordable housing.
Right.
And that's not fair either.
One of the concerns that I have with our current policy, where we've got the county that's setting one standard and nobody else is following a similar standard, is you're creating a great incentive for people to annex. And I think that ultimately that's...
Seems like we've heard something about an annexation plan.
Another thing is, the ambiguity that we have. I mean, we've got a set code and we're applying it, but where you pass multiple pending ordinances, it's created ambiguity for the developers, and I think that hurts the county and the developers. So trying to wrap this up some way would be great.
We need to get with our other folks and see if we can come to some kind. When I say other folks, city.
See, we have our next interlocal.
We have a joint meeting with just Heber. don't we?
Yeah, but our next interlocal is not till August.
Yeah, we just had a meeting last night.
So if we want to do a joint with just Heber and Midway on this one item, I recommend we keep these things to one agenda item or two.
Oh, I do too, because then we never get anything. You have a hard time getting anything resolved anyway.
Well, we do the one that we've got with the next to deal with the MOU,
Okay.
and then maybe talk to the other.
Two more quick things I just want to bring
Real
up.
quick, let's get through this. He's got 2 more.
I'm exhausted just
Jordan
thinking.
now has special needs. You know, we're going to have huge resorts up there. I think they're going to have a unique need for workforce housing that's different from the teachers and law enforcement and other people that we'd normally be supporting. So that's kind of, I look at the Jordan Resort as being something very unique from the rest of the county's needs. Another thing is, I just want to put a plug in that Doug is buried right now, and unless we come up with something very formulaic and simple to apply, he needs somebody that's officiating this for him.
I think our goal will ultimately be to put it on an agenda and come up with what we think is right, what our recommendations are, and hash through it. We may not come to a decision that night, but we need to go through the requirements, what we believe the study tells us, where we are, and where we want to go, all in one discussion.
And I think there's
Is that fair?
elements, Greg, that we need to, or Mr. Chairman, that we need to focus on is who are we trying to serve?
Yeah.
I think that priority personnel, and then there's the secondary, that type of crowd, the resort type of employees. Because those are that seems to me to be the 2 types that we're really trying to struggle with, trying to provide the housing for. And so we've got to focus in on what can we do for priority personnel.
Let's put it on an agenda for you want to put it on next week, or you want to put it on the 1st of June?
Well, how are we going to come to a consensus on this here's a thought, is have the attorney's office put something together based on state code, on what's recommended, and present that, and say, this is what you need to do in order to meet.
That's a
the-
guideline. I think we need to look at that as our guideline to start and make sure we go right back to the beginning and say, are we doing the right thing or do we need to change how we're doing it?
In parallel to that, I think that affordable housing should come up with maybe something that you can present to the council and say, here's what we should do for priority personnel, here's what we should do for resort personnel. Here's the, like, 4 or 5 things that we can accomplish for priority personnel, or priority, right? Is that what you call it? And then resort.
Essential employees.
Is there a way to make county employees a higher priority than any city or school district or anybody else? I mean, if you guys are the ones contributing to all this, that might be a way to get Heber City on board and some of these other towns, because you should be prioritizing your own employees first on any of this stuff.
If we're the only ones contributing to the program, I agree.
So I don't know
I
if,
think we need to look at the state statute first and make sure we're using that as our guideline so that we're not doing something outside of that, number one. Can we do that in our June meeting? Can we review that?
Remember, next week we got SSD at 5, so we don't have
Yeah,
too much.
next
on
week's
the
not gonna
board.
work because we've got an agenda, full agenda, plus public hearings, plus. So, first meeting in June, can we have you review the mandate with us?
Certainly.
And then while we're reviewing that, let's come with maybe some of what we know as recommendations. Maybe y'all over the board, but at least we'll know where each other, or where we're looking at.
And do we want to see if that can apply straight across the board with the other cities like Midway and Heber? Is that what we're going to be thinking?
I
I think they want us to create the template and then they say
We
yes
can
or no.
certainly give them a recommendation, but I don't know how we
Well, and it's different on each city. I
can
mean,
agree
it's-
on.
a city like Midway creates more need for affordable housing per home than Heber, because of zoning issues and,
Well, if Heber annexes Jordan now, they're gonna need.
yeah.
All right. So let's put it on this first meeting in June, Michelle, as affordable housing discussion. Again, please.
It's not easy talking.
Okay. All right, we've lost a couple guys just for the record.
Thanks you guys for the different
No, thank you
comments.
guys,
I
too.
appreciate what Mike said on the Tracy. I mean, I've listened to what's been said, been good to hear other points. So I appreciate what you're doing up there.
Oh,
It's not easy.
One last comment. You might come up with definitions of affordable housing, moderate income housing, workforce housing, employee housing, and if there's any others. Because
Obtainable
people use those interchangeably.
Yeah,
And
you're
that's
right.
not
That's
accurate.
right. Yeah, that's,
So you need to understand what it is, so we can understand what it is.
yeah, I agree. Maybe we need a glossary of,
I think that
like
would
when we
be
talk in acronyms,
well
we have
served
to
to
have
do
a
that.
glossary. So we can refer to what it means. Thank you. Okay, we've lost a couple guys. We'll excuse Councilmember Nelson and Farrell. Both had additional meetings this evening. We'll go through board reports real quick.